Hey, what's up, guys? Jason Santiago again with Modern Stone Technologies, TechLink Consulting, and the Stone and Tile Institute. And it's Monday, so we're going to do our weekly discussion as always. I hope your guys' weekend was relaxing, and hopefully you guys weren't all working through the weekend, and that it was pleasantly uneventful. I'm not really sure what I was going to talk about today, so I figured I would just keep a brief discussion on two of the things that I know quite a bit about, because this is kind of how I got into this industry and kind of how I separated myself in the industry, and that is the difference between clear sealers and color sealers. Now, when we're talking about clear sealers versus color sealers, we are focusing just solely on grout. Obviously, for color seal, you're not going to be using it on sealing tiles or anything like that, like you would with a clear penetrating sealer. So, and I'm going to open this because it's a little warm today. Hopefully, we don't get too much background noise. It's a beautiful day in Arizona, too, by the way. For everybody who is local knows that we have been hot and even pushing 100 degrees up until just very recently, and today is really nice overcast, probably not even out of the 70s, which is awesome for us here in the desert. So, but anyways, color sealers versus clear sealers. I'll go over kind of how to talk to them. Talk about them to your customer. Also, I will talk about some of the pros and cons of going with a color sealer versus a clear sealer. I know a ton of you guys who don't even offer color seal. And then, of course, I know a ton of you guys, like myself, who didn't offer clear sealer for grout. You will only offer color sealer, and that's kind of the route that I took, and I'll talk to you about why I think that's a good route for you to go, and you guys make your decisions from there. But anyways, the color sealer from Modern Stone Technologies is called just that. It's called color sealer. It's a water-based acrylic emulsion, and I always want to throw in that word emulsion. Technically, what that is saying, that it has been formulated differently than what your typical water-based acrylics, how they are formulated. When you're used to hearing of water-based acrylic, you guys typically are thinking of something that coats the surface of like a saltillo or a slate, or even like a concrete or brick surface, where it forms just a very hard shell on the surface of what it is that you're sealing. The color sealer from Modern Stone, again, has been formulated to form what's called that cohesive bond versus just the mechanical surface bond. And what that does basically is it makes it look a little bit more natural, and it also will keep it from peeling off or flaking off in the way that some of these other grout colorants do. The cohesive bond, yes, it will still wear away, but it will wear away at the surface versus just losing the bond and completely just flaking off or peeling. So, and then the clear sealers that you would use from Modern Stone Technologies, and if you remember from our last discussion, when you're talking about sealing grout, you can go with a water-based sealer. So the water-based clear penetrating sealers that we have available is the MaxGuard. That's going to be your highest performing penetrating sealer. A step right below that is going to be your Select Seal. A step below that, in my opinion, is going to be the Rapid Seal. And each of those products, the MaxGuard, Select Seal, and Rapid Seal, they each have their place in the industry. And when I talk about products individually, which eventually I'll get there. Eventually I'm going to go through our line and have a 10-minute discussion on each of our products, so you guys will have that information to review. We will talk about the instances where you might select Rapid Seal over MaxGuard or vice versa. So anyways, with the color seal versus the clear seal, a clear sealer, even at the highest level of performance, is only going to give you a level of stain resistance. Okay, stain resistance is where you have a spill and you see it right away and you wipe it up, or maybe you don't even see it right away. Maybe you see it 30 minutes later. with the product like the MaxGuard, which again is the highest performing water-based penetrating sealer that we have, it gives you about that 30-minute window. So you have a spill, you don't see it for, let's say, 30 minutes, you go in and you wipe it off, and it's not going to penetrate into the grout. It's going to, give you that much protection, quote-unquote protection, to where you're not going to have any staining. However, let's say you have a spill that you don't see right away, and it sits there for 45 minutes. You're probably going to have some staining there, and even though the grout has been sealed and the sealer is performing the way it's supposed to, those types of sealers they have a limitation, and that is that level of stain resistance. Whereas a color sealer, on the other hand, that will give you stain protection, and stain protection is, you have a spill and you don't see it for 3 weeks, and you come back 3 weeks later and you wipe it off of the grout, and it doesn't discolor the grout at all, it doesn't stain the grout at all. That is what stain protection is. So right away we have our first benefit, or our first pro of going with the color sealer, and that is the type of protection that it provides. Okay, the other pro of going with the color sealer is that it will provide you with a perfect result every single time as far as appearance. And that's huge, because I remember when I first got into the industry, I would do my bidding and I would talk to my customers, and this was before I was using color sealers, and I would have to say to them essentially, hey, I'm going to be able to make this floor look 80%, 90% better, but there's no way for me to make this look perfect, because unfortunately some of these stains have been embedded so far into the grout that no matter how much you scrub it, no matter what you do to the grout, steam clean, high heat, whatever you're using, it's only going to get so much, because essentially what we're doing is we're removing just the dirt and build up on the surface of the grout, and maybe getting down into some of those pores with high enough pressure to kind of get some of the very minor staining out. But you're still going to have staining. And so you would have to set that up with your customer right away. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be close to perfect, but it's not going to be perfect. Well, as soon as I started color sealing, at that point I was able to say, let me go with this process, let me go this route, and it will literally look perfect. I will make this look perfect. There will not be any color discrepancies anywhere throughout the floor at all, and I was able to provide that with the color sealer. So that is the other glaring pro of going with the color sealer. And so that's really it. I mean, as far as like the actual benefits of going with the color sealer over a clear sealer, I would say that's about it. If you're pricing things accordingly, you should be making similar profit margins on whether you go with a color sealer or a clear sealer. Now, the reason why I didn't offer clear sealers when I was in the industry is, as soon as I learned about the color sealing and some of the benefits of the color sealing, I wanted to just say to my customers and build that reputation of, hey, I'm going to make it look perfect, and it's going to be great when I'm done, and you're not going to have any issues of staining or color discrepancies in the grout, and you're not going to have any issues with it staining down the road, because I knew that the product that I was using was going to perform the way that it was intended to. So that's kind of how I dealt with things. Now, I understand that is not how everybody is going to operate, and one of the a couple of reasons why that's not how everyone is going to operate is, number one, it is going to have to be more expensive for you to color seal. So that, I suppose, would be one of the benefits of offering a clear sealer, is if your customer is on a benefit or a money limit. If they have a certain amount of money that they want to invest into their floors, and maybe they're not necessarily looking for perfection, they just want it to look a lot better, and they want it to be, protected as all grout should be. And that's another thing. I mean, whether they go with a clear sealer or a color sealer, make sure that they're protecting it with something, because unsealed grout will stain immediately, and it takes a spill for 1 second, and it's stained. So you want to offer them at least a level of protection. But so with the clear sealers, a benefit to your customer can be that it is going to be more affordable for them, and that's important. Another benefit for you is that it's a lot less labor intensive to go with a clear sealer. the clear sealers are essentially something that you can roll on. Our online distributor, TileToolsHQ.com, they have these, I don't know, they're maybe 2 feet long, and they're like a pole, and they got a wheel on there, and contractors are literally filling this pole with penetrating sealer and just walking up and down the grout lines and rolling it down. It just rolls right in. So it can be pretty simple to do a clear seal. And then maybe you just wipe the floor at the very end to make sure you're not leaving any on the tile. So there's a benefit of a clear sealer. It's much faster. It can be more affordable to your customer. Guys are usually, at least in Arizona, kind of in the ballpark of 65 cents to 85 cents a square foot just to seal with the color sealer, and as low as 35 cents or even 30 cents a square foot to do the clear sealer. So that's a pretty significant price difference there as far as what the customer is going to be paying. So I'm not saying everybody just stops clear sealing grout, but I'm saying make sure that you're talking to your customer about the differences. Also, make sure you're setting the expectation well. One kind of thing that I always share with my homeowners is if they opt to go with somebody who wants to clear seal their grout, or they opt for you to clear seal their grout, and they're doing their mopping. Let's say they're doing their bi-monthly mopping, and they're taking their mop bucket and they're putting a bunch of water, and if they're mopping properly, and that's another thing we'll talk about in a future discussion, is how to maintain these floors. But if they're maintaining it properly, they're going to want to put down enough cleaning solution to where that cleaning solution is going to be allowed to dwell for a little bit. And so if they're just using one mop bucket, and that mop bucket is getting full of dirty water, and they're going through and splashing that dirty water all over the floors, that dirty water is dwelling on the grout lines, it's going to end up penetrating and potentially staining that grout. And that's, after you've already sealed it. So make sure that you're setting the expectations right, that you are explaining the maintenance process to them properly, and making sure they understand that, hey, you can't just throw around dirty water on this floor. Even though it's been sealed, it can still be stained with some of this type of stuff. Just kind of explain the difference to them. I know a lot of you guys just don't even want to bother color sealing because it does require you to get down on your hands and knees and to brush it in individual grout lines, and take your floor machine and buff the excess off. It's labor intensive. I get it. It definitely is a lot harder. But again, like we talked about last week, you start to build that reputation that you are offering perfect results every single time. That word is going to get around, and you don't have to necessarily be the cheapest guy to get the jobs when your customers kind of know what you're going to be able to offer them. So yeah, that's clear sealing versus color sealing. There are obviously other color sealers on the market besides Modern Stone Technologies. However, I would say a good majority of them form what's called that cohesive bond. You want to make sure that you're not using a concrete paint. You want to make sure that you're not using anything that is an epoxy blend like some of the other ones out there. You want to make sure that the ones that you are using are actually forming that cohesive bond, because you don't want something that's going to flake off. You don't want something that's going to peel off or look unnatural. Another thing that I kind of missed, another, I don't want to call it a con, but another issue with the color sealing is you really have to make sure that grout has been prepped well. If the grout had been sealed in the past and there's still sealer residue in that grout, a lot of guys will just go and they'll put a clear sealer on top of it, and whatever doesn't soak in, no big deal. But if you go in to try to color seal a grout line that has not been prepped well, and maybe there's some excess residue left behind in that grout, you're not going to get the product to bond, and it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to apply the product. It's also not going to last as long, and you are going to have some of that delamination of that peeling and flaking off, and obviously that's something that you want to completely avoid. So you guys can always contact me if you have questions about this, and we can go more into the color sealing process a little bit more in depth, and how to price it, and maybe just go a little bit more into detail of this conversation. I've already been talking for about 15 minutes, so I don't want to keep you guys too long. But again, I'll leave my contact information in the comments, as I always do. And if you guys have any sort of questions or want more detail about this color sealing stuff, of course, I'm always willing to talk to you. And again, we're still working on that website. All of this information will be on the website as far as how to apply this stuff, and try to give you guys as much information that way as we can. So I try to keep this short. I seem to have a problem when I get talking. I have a problem keeping it within 10 minutes, which I like to do. But all right, thank you so much for listening, and I will look forward to hearing from you guys. Have a good week, and I will be talking to you again next Monday. Take care, guys.